I was on the board that started this store, the Northwind store, in 1982. And that was a feisty time because it was the second oil boycott. So the Lansing in general went into a pretty big recession. But the food co-op was doing great. You know, the food co-op at the time still offered some really low-cost alternatives because Rusty Burchell, the manager at the time, always had a line of very low-priced items, and if somebody was unemployed, they could volunteer at the co-op and then get a discount on what was already some fairly cheap food. And with the discount, it was the cheapest food available. And when Oldsmobile was laying off, you got all these General Motors workers, really good workers. I mean, they come into your store and you could really get some serious production out of them.
Well, one of the reasons local matters to me is that living in Michigan, there's no question that we've seen the ravages of corporations that have decided that it's more important to take money out of the system than it is to help support the communities and help work with the people in the community. A cooperative has an opportunity to choose to actually focus on the area, focus on the local farmers, focus on the local producers. And I think that's part of what makes it very attractive to me. That corporations can do the same, but they often choose not to. They're less focused on that. And you'll often see a wonderful new store set up, something that is local in nature, and it may well get bought out and its priorities changed because it made sense from a financial standpoint for it to sell instead of from the standpoint of what's good for the community. Cooperatives are designed to be good for the community, and you can count on that because that's why they exist.
I think coming out of this last recession, we've seen a huge push by a lot of people who have finally gotten the idea, and just before it was maybe too late, that when you buy local, you are supporting your friends and neighbors and cousins and aunts and uncles in the extended community, and the money stays in the community and rolls over in that community numerous times, building wealth within the community. So not only are you doing something economically positive with the money that you're spending, but through the co-ops, small farmers are able to, and we know many of them, are able to have a distribution system so they can bring their food to market. You know, and it enables them to focus on doing what they love to do, what their passion is growing food, whether it's Swiss chard or peppers or tomatoes or making pickles. And we see a lot of small producers involved in the co-op system where there would be no way for them to deal with a Myers or a Kroger's or a Cisco or a Gordon Food Service.
From an environmental point of view, local is better simply because it costs a lot less it uses a lot less sort of resources of things like transportation costs and fuel and all of those things, right? If we're getting stuff from Mason, then it's not costing very much to get here versus flying it in from, you know, Israel or something like this, right? So there's an advantage just on a kind of sustainability side to doing local. Plus, they're supporting the community, right? So it's actually supporting local farmers, and I think that that's a really good thing to do. This is a great agricultural country, and more land is becoming non-agricultural as it's getting developed, and I think that we also need to do more to support local farmers if we can. So one of the things that co-ops have the advantage of is that because they're relatively small, they can actually deal with smaller amounts, right? I mean, it's really tricky. One of the things that we don't really understand about sustainability is I don't think that it's not that easy to scale up, you know, local and have it work at a more, you know, large-scale level.
That's a hot topic right now. Organic foods is a hot topic, keeping things local, economy, all those topics are really important right now, and it's a perfect time for ELFCO. And ELFCO's always been here. Oh, what a surprise, you know, we've got what we need, it's been here all the time.
I came in '76 and Laura came in '78. And
with the rest of the family.
And we've been living here ever since. And we remember when the food co-op was in this tiny little old bus station on Grand River Avenue, which after that I guess became a Chinese restaurant. And I don't know what happened there then. And there was a little space out in front for the store, and an even tinier space in back for preparing the things. It was really tiny, about as big as one aisle in the new store.
ELFCO went through a huge change then, went from an 800 square foot store on Grand River in East Lansing to this store, which is still about 3,500 square feet. Back then, there wasn't a whole lot of organic, back in 1982 I'm talking about, there wasn't a whole lot of organic food to be had except at the food co-op. Not that we had that much, but we had some, and we were practically the only people even saying the word organic back then. That's changed now.
When I first joined the co-op, I didn't know much about healthy eating, and I was just kind of winging it. It was close to my house, but I'd say that it's been an education process for me to learn about what's good for my body, what's good for my health, and how the co-op fits in with that. Especially these days, people are hearing more about organic, but they think, oh, it's too expensive for me, I can't do that. Well, I've been tracking my budget since I decided I wanted to move towards organic eating. And although I'm not 100% organic, in the couple of years I've started to make that move, I don't see an increase in my food budget because I eat differently. I eat less meat, which is expensive, but I'm just as satisfied. I eat a lot more vegetables, lot more vegetables. And the variety of vegetables at the co-op is wonderful. All seasons you can get good healthy food, and it's not shipped from far away if possible. Of course, in the winter it's a little more challenging, but there are still local providers for some foods. The other thing I'm interested in is eating seasonally, which saves you money. You're not buying strawberries in the middle of December and going with that, so I like that rhythm of eating. And those types of things all end up with maybe not saving you money, but at least you're doing better for your body, but not spending huge amounts of money like you think you might. So for those that are afraid that I can't afford to eat better or shop at the co-op, I would say give it a try. It's not true. There's always great sales. You become a member, you get even more sales, so that helps. You know, everyone's a careful shopper. There's coupons, just like any grocery store. Plus the people are friendlier. So overall, I think it's a great value, and it always has been, and especially now with the remodeling, there's even a wider selection of things. It's very clean and pleasant. I think in the old days, people had an impression of co-ops as just being kind of smelly, dirty, I don't know, kind of funky, hippie places to be, but it's like any other grocery store, only better, because it's local people. You're a part owner too if you become a member, and so you have that feeling of ownership, and you want to help it out, you want to see it grow, you want to see it get better, and then you end up being a healthier person in the process. So where can you go wrong?
I've been part of many co-ops in all of the different places where I've lived. I love co-ops, and there's something bright and cheerful about every co-op, all co-ops. But I live here now, and I've been part of this co-op since, I can't even remember, since I started being part of it. I remember when they were in Lansing, and been part of this place for a long time. And I almost always do, I do about 90% of my shopping at the co-op. Occasionally something's on sale elsewhere and I'll go there. But then I feel guilty.
Well, we've been co-op members for a very long time. I don't remember how long. And we were asked first to think about memories and with the co-op, and I guess the most vivid memory is 5 or so years ago when the co-op was not doing as well as it should have, and there was a call for members to come and help, and we did, and we felt very much a part of a community of effort, and it was fun cutting cheese and bagging apricots and figs, and it was a lovely time. I looked forward to it. It was a wonderful end of a day once a week. And through the work of many of us who did that kind of volunteer effort, the co-op began to recoup with good management and good community board of directors, and it's now what it is, which is just a tremendous institution. And I didn't realize it's 40 years old, so it was building community well before anybody else had the idea of local food and sustainability and alternative practices. It was right there, building the road as we walked ahead.
I agree. I think the thing that I enjoyed most, always have enjoyed about ELFCO, is they speak food, and I love food. And when I go in there, if there's somebody picking out a food I'm unfamiliar with, I can always ask them what they're going to use it for and how to cook with it. So it's an educational experience for me, but it's also a very pleasant way to meet people and to talk with people in a very informal situation. So I'm glad ELFCO's been here, and I'm glad it's going to be here in the future.
And co-ops are just fabulous. I mean, they take people and collect their individual abilities and collect them together and make them stronger for the common good. And if we did more of it, I think we would be a healthier society.
Our health is even more than what we eat, you know, and that's the other thing about the co-op is it's offering a hand to be in community, at least at some level, you know. And
that carrot I grew never tasted so good. And like that tomato.
Yeah.
Those 20 pounds of tomato I ate in 1 week never tasted so good. You know, it's like, you know, there's something about being in a relationship, being in a true relationship with your food. With anything, really, anything.
Savoring your reality.
Yeah, that feeds you on many levels.
Yeah. So feeding the spirit, the mind,
absolutely. And your friends, you know, you get to share food.
I think community is the most important thing. I grew up coming to the East Lansing Food Co-op, so I was one of the kids running around, you know, spilling stuff out of the bulk bins and, you know, that type of thing. And I just grew up coming here and realizing that one of the most important things about, you know, your food and where your groceries come from is having people to really kind of help you know about those things. So I think they really facilitate community by educating you about products and food consumption and where food comes from, and now things have sort of moved towards, well, I don't think moved towards, but there's more of a more widely recognized movement towards, you know, eating locally and eating sustainably, and even more of an awareness, I think, on a more ubiquitous level of where your food comes from. And I think food co-ops are, you know, a place to go to learn about that. I think anybody could come in not knowing a whole lot about their food and food production, and they could come into the co-op and have a lot of their questions answered, if not people really dedicated and willing to try to figure out what the answer is if they don't know. So I think that's a huge part of being with the co-op. I know it's been beneficial to me. I think also it's a huge resource for people with food allergies, and I think that's another really prevalent. You know, maybe it's always been there, but you hear more and more and more about people being allergic to wide varieties of things. And I know from volunteering here and working here that people come here specifically, you know, seeking out advice about food allergies and, you know, getting advice about what to buy. And, you know, the food co-op has, you know, always done their research and always had their sections of, you know, their gluten-free sections, and just all that type of information available for people. So I think, yeah, I guess, besides growing up here and just sort of being a part of the community from the get-go, and not really realizing what I had maybe until, I was older and, could volunteer here and work here for a bit, and that I realized that how important it was. And really what that does is just make it a lot of fun to come here, because you always see somebody that you can always talk to them about whatever it is. The people who work here are interested in talking to you about new products and new things and what's going on, because not only do I come here, but I'm also a member and owner. So you do get that sort of sense of like it's kind of your place to go. So
there's so many choices, and it just keeps getting better, and lots of friends, lots of good times.
I've been going to the East Lansing Food Co-op for 15 years, so I guess since I was a baby. She carried me around in that bag, I guess, and it was really embarrassing. But yeah,
you were happy.
I like going to food co-op because all of the healthy foods, like a lot of my friends are like, ew, gross, healthy, but actually the food co-op carries a lot of like really tasty and delicious products, so that's what I like about it. I really like the Zingerman's bread, and
you just had a new one.
Yeah, and I like I don't know what brand it is, but it's like this really good coconut ice cream. So
Coconut Bliss.
Yeah, Coconut Bliss.
And now Stone Circle bread.
Yeah.
What I love about the co-op and co-ops generally is the idea that it is driven by the people who are the owners of it. That we get to say, here's something I'd like you to try, and it can happen. That the choices about what is provided are based on what people actually want and need, and that it offers opportunities for things like buying local foods, which is something that I consider very high priority. What I really like is when I come into the East Lansing Food Co-op, the produce area will tell me where the food is from, where the produce is from. And that's something I don't get in other grocery stores. I like that they have, over time, provided a variety of different things that show they're responsive to their owners, and that to me is really critical.
And cooperative organization also allows you to vote directly, to participate directly, like I do. I'm one of many hundreds of board members that have been part of ELFCO, and that's a way for you to determine your life a lot more directly than just by, voting and being a mindless consumer.
We are all stronger when we work together, and for us to all find out what's important in the lives of our friends and neighbors and help them do the things that are important to them. That's the cooperative spirit that I believe in, and I've really believed it all my life.
Well, it's absolutely mandatory for everybody to be part of a family. I believe that we're all related and that we're all part of each other. And so the more we do together and help each other out with the things that need to be done, the better we are.
I agree.
I think it's very important if people, they heard the word co-op, the food co-op, or the buying club, or, buying in bulk. If you haven't tried it, you should go check it out. Really, I think that's the word, is to keep them alive.
For me, it's a easy way to keep what was fundamental several generations ago. As our families have moved further and further apart geographically, when we get in trouble, whether financially, emotionally, psychologically, we used to be able to go home. We used to be able to go back to the farm. People would take you in, and there was always room, and as long as you could do a little work, there would be food on the table. co-ops are fundamental in preserving a sense of community that might otherwise be lost in the hecticness of today, dealing with the international, multinational aspect of our world, of our daily world. You know, we can't get along without cell phones, we can't get along without technology. Everybody's in a hurry, but the one small thing that you can do to help preserve part of that is shop at a co-op, where people know your name, where they care about you, where you care about them, and that I think is good for people.
I was a student worker, so that I would get a student discount, a worker student, I get all the discounts that way, you know. And I loved the atmosphere. I loved the fresh food. At that point, 30 years ago, you know, it was like an indoor market that you really couldn't go other places. It feels like, you know, places like Myers or other big grocery stores or something have almost in a way modeled themselves after co-ops. It's just, and even today, walking into the co-op and the fresh food that just greets you, you know, and now I have a stronger understanding of organic, and you know, I have a background in teaching and holistic health and have taught people about organic, and I mean, I really feel it's part of my healthcare plan. And the co-op, and then the co-op, that's just the food, and then, you know, the fact that it's a cooperative, it's member owned, it's a social system that we don't really employ many other places in our capital society. I support all of that as well, and I just spent a couple, 2.5, 3 hours over there today at the grand opening, and the delightful, positive, wide variety of people over there was just really fun to be with. So that's some of it.
The most important aspect of cooperatives is democracy. I've many times said, you know, the world doesn't need another food store. It needs democracy. And I personally think direct democracy is the important thing. That's not an easy sell. It's not an easy buy either. I mean, it's not easy to find those things, those kinds of organizations. You know, the town meeting was not even mentioned in the American Constitution. I think that's a little ironic, since it was maybe the most important political experience the colonies had for 100 years. Nevertheless, it was not, and representative government was actually developed to mitigate democracy, and it's done that. But I think we've reached a point now with 300 million people where its drawbacks are really showing themselves. With Occupy people and the Tea Party people as well, what they really crave is access to decision making, and they don't have it because representative government won't really allow that. Certainly not in the way that direct democracy would.
I guess, I mean, at the small local level like ours, I think the best thing is probably just sort of word of mouth and telling people about the co-op and having people join in that. At the larger level, I think there needs to be some way of showing that the model actually works. And in fact, the model has worked. We know that there have been grain cooperatives in the, you know, in the country for hundreds of years, or at least 100 years at least, probably. And so those kinds of things, you know, cooperative systems do actually work. And I think that that's the other part of this, which is that if we think of co-ops as just very, very local and very small, that's probably not the way to make co-op work better, rather than saying there has to be ways to make sort of co-ops of the co-ops in a sense, right? To sort of to have that, again, to go up with that scaling, right? Because you need to get bunches of local farmers to be able to figure out ways to pool their stuff so that then they can actually compete potentially with corporate farmers and stuff like that. I think that's part of what needs to be done. But I agree, education is probably key.
I think of love, and I kind of think of it in choice.
To me, it's in the sign that's hanging in there, co-op for people, not for profit.
The motivation is not to make a profit. The motivation is to provide a service.
Yeah.